The enemy wants you to constantly live in a place where you can be offended with yourself and stop using your faith. So you have to decide, I'm going to just take another step. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be, right? At least I think so anyway. We bought a building 6 years ago in the middle of the recession. And we tried to plant another campus in the city center. We couldn't find anywhere to meet. Then one day we find this 4-story building. And it was to let. So we went and had a look at it. We only wanted 1 floor. It had been a bank's business headquarters. So we went to the bank and said, can we lease the floor? So they say, yeah, lease the floor. So it goes to our lawyers to draw up a simple lease. And then the lawyer said to me, the bank's not responding. They won't sign the lease. So I tried phoning them, and they wouldn't pick up my phone. And we're stuck. We have nowhere to meet, right? Nowhere to meet. So I go down to this building early one morning, praying, saying, God, what's going on? What is all this about? You told us to plant this campus. Now we can't even find a place to meet. And then the Lord spoke to us, why do you want to rent it when you can own it? Well, that thought hadn't even occurred to me. What? The whole thing? Buy it. I remember standing there being flabbergasted. Buy it with what? And then cutting a very long story short, I got a hold of the mobile number of the owners of this building. 2 Jewish guys. And I phone them up. The guy answers. I said, hey, we've never met, but you got a building in Glasgow. Would you sell me it? He says, I don't have a building in Glasgow. I said, yeah, you do. He said, no, I don't. I said, you do. I've just checked the land registry. He said, I'll call you back. 20 minutes later, he called back. You're right, we do. These 2 Jewish guys had £3 billion worth of property. They didn't know what they had. So we thought the bank owned it, but the bank had leased it. So we start talking. They say, what is a church? What with a bank? So I say to these guys, let's meet and I'll tell you. So they say, okay. So I fly down. We meet them in Stansted Airport, in a hotel at Stansted Airport, right? 2 really, really, really authentic 65-year-old Jewish guys. And we start talking and telling them what our vision is and what we're doing with young people and our food banks and all that's going on. He said, that is amazing. That is amazing. And he said, we're 3rd-generation property owners. We sell nothing. We never sell. He said, I tell you what, I'll sell you that building for what I paid for it in 1987 when it was built. So I said, great. Right? I haven't had it valued. I have no money. I have nothing. I said, what was that then? He said, £2.3 million. And God said to me, shake his hand and do a deal. So I said, you got a deal? So I'm thinking, what am I doing? And then we have a real interesting conversation. This is another story besides. She says, how's the church going to pay for a building? So I say, well, we tithe and give. He said, what's a tithe? So I said, you guys are Jews, right? So he said, yeah. And you don't know what a tithe is? No. I said, you go to a synagogue? Never miss. I said, how do you run a synagogue? He said, oh, that's easy. The rabbi works out what the annual budget is. He works out what we're all worth and gives us a bill January 1st. I said, ooh, maybe we could run a church like that. But the story went on, and it was, you don't know what a tithe is, no, right? You know Abraham, right? Abraham, who's he? Is he a property developer? I said, no, your ancestor. They'd never heard of him. So I said, what do they teach you in the synagogue? He said, I have no idea. It's all in Hebrew. And they were genuine, full on in their community, right? They were very, very wealthy people. And their biggest passion was they served kosher meals and wheels to the elderly. That's what they loved doing. So we had this great opportunity to teach them about their inheritance. Anyway, long story short, I go back. First thing, I got to get this building valued. And it was worth more than we were buying it for. But we didn't have a penny. So we talked to the church. The church gives sacrificially. But the parting shot The parting shot from these two Jewish guys was this. Hey, you know the bank have still got 9 years left to run on that lease? I said, yeah. He said, they'll pay to get out of it. I hadn't even thought about that. And they said, whatever they pay you, you can keep. So off we went. We arranged, the church gave sacrificially, God bless them. We all gave all that we could. We then mortgaged the rest. But because the recession hit, we had 7 mortgage deals reneged on at the point of signing. And you know how long it takes to set up a deal, right? And at the point of signing, no. And eventually we got there, but we were £600,000 short because as this recession bit, they cut the loan to value, they increased the interest rates, they reduced the amount they would lend, so the gap began to open. And we needed 600,000. I'd gone back to the bank now and said, see that building we were going to rent from you? Yeah, we're actually buying it. We're becoming your landlords. And here's the thing I discovered. They stopped the lease when we'd first tried to rent it because the person in charge of their UK property hated Christians and swore no Christian will ever have this building. I met that lady later, and do you know why she hated Christians? Offense. Something had happened. That's the challenge of an offense. But faith overcomes it. And so, anyway, they said, listen, there's a recession on, banks have got no money, we'll give you £180,000. I said, no, it's worth a lot more than that. I need 600,000 from you guys. No deal. And you know, months went by. And every day in that month, and the month after, and the month after, I had to go back and remember, faith is my servant. I've got to keep using it. I've got to keep using it. No, we're going to get this. But it got to the point where the bank wouldn't talk to us. They wouldn't settle on their lease. And we'd started calling early morning prayer meetings to pray the problem through. And in one of those early morning prayer meetings, a man just before he rushed off to work said, Andrew, in the prayer meeting, while we were worshiping God this morning, God told me to give you this telephone number. And he'd written on a scrappy piece of paper. I said, what is this number? He said, this is a guy that I knew 9 years ago who worked for that bank. But I haven't seen him for 9 years. And I don't even know if his number's the same. And I've heard he's relocated to the bank's head office in Australia. Oh, great, thanks. That's a real big help. And I put the number in my wallet, right? I actually dismissed it. Thought nothing of it. Didn't give it a second thought. I forgot about it the moment I walked out of that prayer meeting. 2 weeks later, I'm driving my car. And the Holy Spirit says to me, phone that number right now. So I pull the car over thinking, have I still got the number? I still had it in my wallet. Then I start dialing thinking, what am I going to say to this guy? How am I going to open this conversation while I'm dialing? And then I realize he's probably in Australia. What time is it in Australia? Anyway, the guy answers the phone and he says, can't talk now. That's what he doesn't ask who's there. Can't talk now, hangs up. But he doesn't hang up. He leaves the line open. I can hear his conversation. And I can hear 4, 5, 6 people in this room. And this is what he says. This is what came out of his mouth. That Destiny crowd in Glasgow, what is it they want? 400, 500, whatever it is they want, give it to them. Am I dreaming? And I look at my phone. No, that number is in my phone. I've just made that call. I was stunned. I sat there for I don't know how. I was stunned. What do I do with that information? So I go back to the bank, call them up. This head of property won't even come to the phone to talk to me. She doesn't even lie. She just says, tell him I don't want to talk to him. So it took me 20 minutes to persuade her to come to the phone. She comes. She said, what, you're going to take her 180? I said, no, you're going to give me 600,000. How'd you work that out? I said, phone this guy, he'll tell you. 10 days later, I had a check for £600,000. It's amazing, huh? And all of that from a little step of, can I rent this floor? So the step can look really small, but if you will move out with God and see faith as your servant, that faith will overcome even the offenses that have locked up your town or your city. See, an offense doesn't just affect you. The devil uses the offense to affect generation after generation after generation. And as Christians, we've got some ground to cover in some places. But when you start using your faith, faith always operates through love. And the two things always go together. God starts loving people through it. And he can overturn what the devil meant for bad.